brother.
What's up, dude? Can you
Oh
hear me
man.
okay?
Yeah, I
Can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. I can hear you perfect, man. All
All right.
professional and everything.
Uh, I got one of these jammies outside of the camera shot here. I wish I had a nicer camera though.
Oh, I'm running on a 2015 MacBook Pro 720.
Oh, then your
Blend.
lighting's great.
Oh, check this out. Even though this is being recorded, that's just the
It's all
lighting.
nature.
Yeah, man. See that? See that? This is people think it's a black background. See those Laker dolls right there? Yeah, behind the scenes audience.
That is what's up. That
It,
is what's up.
it's all just rigging, set deck.
Yeah, and it looks good. In fact, I need to do something with all that right there, and I'm working on it. I'm gonna get on your level, Charles. You're the
No,
inspiration, bro. I'm
no,
gonna
man.
get
I
on your
mean,
level.
it's funny when you have like this guy you admire compliment you, but it's like, oh, I have to lob it right back, man. It- you
No,
know?
we'll be playing tennis all day with that.
Oh no,
So
no, no, no.
there's a
I'll be
mutual
your ball
respect,
boy.
bro.
I'll be a ball boy for you, dude. I'll grab the balls when you
Whoa,
serve
whoa,
it.
whoa,
No,
whoa,
yeah, that's right.
whoa.
That's right. You just,
Hey,
yeah. Hey, for the listening audience, I'll set you up with a nice intro on the podcast network. But this brother right here, I met at the Burbank Athletic Club. Nicest dude, got the illest gi. I knew he was like a quarter Filipino at that point, because totally like, yo, let me be braggadocious with my black belt too. He had like that outlined lucky gi. It was like one of the dopest, dude.
yeah. To this day, that's one of my favorite ones. It's a lucky gi. It was hemp, and it was actually a gift from the guy that owned Jiujitsu magazine before me.
Okay.
So shout out to Mike Velez for that. That was like a wedding gift, and it was like it was brand new or just about to come out, and he gifted me that. And to this day, it's Star Wars inspired, size matters not, and I'm a Star Wars geek, so that gi was dope, is dope to this day, still one of my favorites. Love it.
Yeah. It's kind of like in any community, right? Like whether if you're into hip hop or food, like if you're rocking a dope gi, I feel like, and I'm just a white belt, but I feel like if you're rocking a dope gi, you got to be a minimum a brown belt or like a super dope competitive purple belt. But if you're a white belt or maybe a blue belt, unless if it's like an exceptional blue belt that was a all high school, all collegiate wrestler, that's when you get to rock the Ferrari.
You rock the Ferrari. But I will say, yeah, and we always kind of gloss over the hip hop culture and stuff like that. But in the jujitsu community, that's kind of the equivalent of that sneakerhead. Oh, he's a sneakerhead, or oh, he's all about his lids, right? His lid game is on point. But in jujitsu, it's about that gi. It's about that gi game, and I'm a mere child when it comes to what some of these other folks are rocking. Like, I'm not in that show you roll clique or anything like that. Never even owned one. But yeah, it's like being a sneakerhead. But at the same time, I do have my favorites, and I connoisseur of gis. I don't know, but I like them. I like them. And there's some, like, even the belts, the black belt. I have my regular ragtag belt, but then I have the formal belt, and it's made by Mato, and it's dope. It's dope, and I don't use that when I roll. I don't use that when I roll.
Is there something you've learned subculturally? Like, there's the favela jiu-jitsu practitioners, they can't afford something
Yeah.
expensive, right? Even in the Philippines, I was just there last year, and it's lightweight gis that they can't be too braggadocious, or not that it's bragging, but they can't afford show your roll, or not that we're disparaging them, right? But do you find it that there is like that parameter that I just put, like, hey man, if you want to rock something nice, you got to be at least a purple belt. That's really good, or is that really a free for all?
No, that's actually a thing, and like anything else, there are layers to this game here, right? Because what makes jujitsu very interesting is, you have that, like, martial arts customs and courtesies, right? You're not going to disrespect the dojo, the academy, the dojang, whatever, martial art. So some places you don't have that creative liberty. You just don't. It's not allowed. I mean, never mind finances, just like when it comes to etiquette for all of these different factions, so to speak. So everyone has their own set. Like some people, they won't even allow you to rock gis. Whereas, when I was running my program, I was very liberal with that. It's like, yeah, rock it. And as a matter of fact, you can mix match. I don't care. Like I used to wear, sometimes I'd rock blue bottoms with a black top. Because it just looks dope. I like that color combination. But B, sometimes the pair of pants rip or a jacket rips, or one thing doesn't feel as comfortable as the other. So there's so many layers, but it all comes back down, and this transcends like tax brackets, so to speak, is just being confident. What makes you feel good? You could be a blue belt, but if you just have this aura, the way you walk it, like you're getting tapped out, but it's like, that's what's up. Let's go again. You could be a blue belt, but if you have that attitude, and I had past tense, it wasn't mine, it was gifted to me. It was a red gi.
Ah,
That one's tough. A red gi is kind of one of those things in the jujitsu community. I don't know so much about the karate culture or anything like that, where I think it's a bit more common, but in jujitsu, it's like, you better be pretty good if you're going to rock that gi. And if you're not good, be confident. Like, okay, he's tapped out. He's cool again, tapped out, because here he is, slapping hands and bumping knuckles again. So again, there's so many layers, but I think what transcends all of that is the confidence. It's like, and that confidence is like a window to your soul. Who are you? Who are you? Is it real confidence? Is it fake confidence? And there's a saying in the jujitsu and community, and I would even say the MMA community, because there's a lot of crossover, is the mats don't lie. The mats don't lie. So this is kind of part of the lure for a lot of people, myself included, is it reveals you. It reveals you. So when you make your friends in this context, you get to see, I believe, a a person's personality. Are they real? What are you about? Pressure testing. It helps bring that out. And jiu-jitsu gives plenty of opportunities to put yourself in that pressure. And if you keep running from that pressure cooker, there you go. I get to know you a little bit better.
right. And with your experience, does like socioeconomic status represent like a rolling
Mm,
style? Like, someone impoverished might be more
yeah.
reckless, or someone who comes from privilege but is very humble and very self-aware, they might be more calculated with their head low to their instructors and professors. Is that something that you've seen or noticed?
Man, Charles, great question. Great question. Because I'm a fan of those types of questions, because now we're getting into nuance.
Sure.
And with that, so we commonly refer to, I think the spirit of your question is like a white collar grappler, right? White collar
Sure.
grappler.
Who's blue
So
collar? Who's white collar?
yes. And again, it can transcend, because you can get some high level executive who just eats this culture up, and he could be absolutely psychotic. So, as far as the way they attack. So humanity is humanity. So again, jujitsu doesn't build character. In fact, sports, like they always say, sports, oh, that's good, they need some discipline. Sports won't give you discipline. Nothing gives you discipline. It only sets the stage and gives you an opportunity to showcase the amount of discipline you're willing to put yourself through, the amount of fire and heat and hurt that you're willing to put yourself through. And that's not just exclusive to the jiu-jitsu community. That's exclusive to, I mean, so many things, but especially athletics, something that puts you in that physical state of discomfort and hurt. And so with that, yeah, there really is a difference, because at the same time, talking about the same white collar type of mentality, here's the other thing: they chances are they have people to take care of, and getting hurt on a jujitsu mat doesn't play in that equation. It doesn't benefit them if they get hurt, and all of a sudden a whole system that feeds people, like that employs people is affected by someone not being able to turn that on or off. But it's that energy that people bring in. Even if that's the case, you could still kind of tell that your hard workers from your slackers. It reveals. And, and sometimes like these impoverished areas. In fact, if you go to the IBJJF, which is the largest, sanctioned organization, sanctioning body for competitive jiu-jitsu, man, if you look, the Brazilians are running the gamut on those, right? And Brazil is an impoverished country. It's essentially a third world country. And to hear some of their stories and that the reason why they fight so hard, when you get a little bit of context, it's really an amazing thing. And here's people that, are a section of our society that they come from very little, but that is the escape. And then they bring that attitude to the mat. And jiu-jitsu is a very intimate art. You're grabbing, you actually feel that energy. And we're talking not just hands and limbs, but your whole body, right? And you feel that energy. You feel when people have an intention to try to hurt you or the intention to just work hard. You feel these things. It reveals those things. Jiu-jitsu is another dialect of language, period. Or it's another language.
Do you feel, because you come from a parental lineage of your grandfather being in the military, your dad was in the military, you were in the military, when you commit to something like this with Rodrigo Teixeira, am I pronouncing that right?
Teixeira.
Yep. Teixeira. Okay. Did you know, like, you were in there, like, because of your disciplinary background? Like, I'm in there. I'm in there,
dude. So, man, this is another great question, because this is a funny story. This is a funny story. It's kind of unique too. So going back to my first introduction to jiu-jitsu. So before I was into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, man, I was all in on boxing. So in the late 80s, I actually had the opportunity to work out over at 10 Goose Boxing, which is over in Van Nuys. Now 10 Goose, and that's where I grew up in the San Fernando Valley.
213 people, 213, not 818, 213 Van Nuys.
Oh my God, yes. The old school 213 before it was 818. Exactly, Charles. Right. Oh, that was tight. So yeah, I was working out with those guys in like the mid late 80s. And some of those, they were high level boxers over there. I mean, you had Michael, second to none, former middleweight champion. You had the Ruelas brothers, Rafael and Gabriel Ruelas, who were just sharp. And then to this day, it still serves as like this transit type of gym where Floyd Mayweather goes there. The Diaz brothers, they go there whenever they're in the Valley. They'll go to 10 Goose to get that work, right? So in the 80s, I was that, and then decided to join the military, much like you stated, like my father and my grandfather. And in that, I kind of floated away from the martial arts, right? But I was still I'm built that way. I'm drawn towards that. So then fast forward to 1993, I see the UFC 1. Now I had the fortune to watch it live, not in person, but live on TV, not on a videotape. So I kind of consider myself some of the old school, although there are others that were before me that knew about this jiu-jitsu hustle before UFC. But UFC 1, that was my introduction to seeing this skinny little dorky guy, 178 pounds, soaking wet with change in his pockets, right? And I'm thinking, oh, look at this poor kid. He's going to get mangled. And, the Frank Shamrocks and the Art Jimerson. Art Jimerson was a boxer. He was a good boxer. A lot of people don't know that because they just see MMA lore and the one glove guy, right?
Sure.
But Art Jimerson was a legit boxer. He was like a top 10 cruiserweight at the time. So I watched this and it piqued my interest because I honestly thought boxing was it. Boxing's it. You put a good boxer in there, they'll light these guys up. But then Art Jimerson, who is he checks off. He was a legit boxer. I mean, he got what he got in UFC 1. I'm like, what? I didn't even understand it. Then I see Royce doing it over and over again. Then that was November 93, December 93. I go to the gym. I see these guys in pajamas flopping around doing this jiu-jitsu stuff. I'm like, oh, I got to approach these guys. I got to try. And it was funny. There were no mats. It was hardwood floor. And they were just kind of holding together all these aerobic mats in the gym collectively. They were all sharing one gi and a white belt. Turned out they were students from the Gracie Academy. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm pretty good at self-defense. I took karate. I used to train under Frank Dukes when I was a little kid. How about that?
Oh, did.
Yeah, yeah, he was my instructor. But anyways, I'm like, yeah, tuck my chin. If someone slaps on choke, tuck my chin. I'm good. Wrong. They choked me 7 ways from Sunday, and I was hooked. So I had my first introduction to jujitsu and learning it, the arts, from that group of white belts and one blue belt from the Gracie Academy. We took this seriously. I wanted to be in the UFC. I trained hard. I actually even talked to Art Davie, who was one of the founders of the UFC at the time, along with Horian. They denied me. Tried to work, got injured, separated from the arts for another 10 years. So fast forward to 2004, 2005, something like 2005. I got out of the military. Yeah, it was 2005 because 2004 I got out of the military. So 2005, I'm like, man, something's missing. I need this, like this combative instinct, right? I'm like, I got to do something. I played a lot of basketball, but I suck at basketball. So I loved playing, but I just wasn't getting that same fulfillment. So, anyways, I'm like, you know what? When I was training with those guys, I was good. I was nice. So what I did, I went on the internet. I just looked for the first tournament, signed up. Didn't even have an academy affiliation. In fact, I put my basketball organization I was a part of as my academy, basketball, big ball in athletics. I signed up, and then I'm like, oh snap. I signed up to this thing. I guess I better find an academy. So I competed on a Saturday, but that Friday before, the day before my very first jiu-jitsu tournament, I did a trial lesson at Rodrigo Teixeira's academy. It was the no-gi day. It was a no-gi tournament. I'm like, sweet, man. It felt so good. I actually was able to hold my own with a lot of the lower belts and stuff. It's like I didn't feel like I was lost. It just felt natural. And even though it'd been like 10 years since I actively worked out the way I used to. So after the trial class, I told Rodrigo, I said, hey, I have a tournament tomorrow. You got me. I'm in. Would you mind coaching me? He's like, oh, sure thing, my brother. Sure thing. And by the way, that's a spot on imitation of Rodrigo, if you ever heard him. He's all, of course, man. I'll go do it. Let's go. So the next day I compete. I won my first match, lost second, lost in the bronze medal match to a friend to this day, Echo Charles, Mr. Echo Charles. I lost to that guy. And it's been never looked back until the wheels fall off, man. Rodrigo Teixeira, from white belt to black belt, has been my instructor, and I'm built that way. The UFC, Dana White, the marketing team, they nailed it when they had that ad campaign. It's in our DNA. So this type of thing is just, I'm drawn to it. It's in my DNA.
Well, there's also an aspect where you joined, and I think you had to be a blue belt, but you just bought a blue belt. So there's that aspect that you got to share with my audience.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so back when I was training that before time days,
before Rodrigo, right?
Yes, in the 90s, they would not let white belts to compete. The white belts were not allowed. So I did the whole Karate Kid Miyagi-Do thing. Remember that they'll scene when Mr. Miyagi does a little misdirection while stealing the belt from the other hand?
Sure.
I just went and bought a blue belt because I knew, I'm like, oh, I'm prepared. Shine. I'll just do blue belt. And so I bought a blue belt, but then I found out that rule, by the time 2005 came, that rule had been relaxed and everyone was allowed to compete. So I'm like, oh, cool. In fact, since it was no gi, I just went beginner. I'm like, beginner, sure, let's do it. And so anyways, I was able to compete, but yeah, I bought a blue belt and I was very prepared. Like, yeah, I'm a blue belt. I brought it with me and everything, just as kind of like my documentation or something, but yeah, man, I just wanted to do it. I didn't care. I really didn't care about winning or losing. Of course I would have liked to win. I would have liked to beat Echo Charles because he still dogs me about it to this day, but it is what it is. I'm still here. He's still here. So we love this culture. We love the community, man.
Yeah, I needed you to share that because preliminarily to jujitsu blowing up as it still is, um, there's people like you. Like I'm 45, so I come from the JKD. That's how I got into martial arts and then Muay Thai. That's what I felt like was the most effective. I'm not gonna lops out someone to death. I felt like Western boxing and Muay Thai was the most practical out of the more stand-ups. And for you, I wanted the audience to listen and hear that, like, yo, man, I'm gonna test my grappling. I don't know this jujitsu stuff, but I'm gonna buy a blue belt and I'm gonna test myself. And that's in compliment to tie into what you said about it's in our DNA. And that's why I was like, seriously curious about interviewing you because I knew of that story. I knew of that story of you buying a blue belt, not even training in jiu-jitsu, but hey, man, this is the curiosity. I need to satiate this. So I appreciate you recounting that because that's really critical for people to hear about where jiu-jitsu is now.
Yeah, and can I just kind of play off of something that you mentioned there?
Do your thing.
And you and I, we go back years now. When you say Burbank Athletic Club, that's at minimum 6 years ago. That's when I closed, but we're talking about even further than that, you
Sure.
and I have been in some sort of contact, right? And I'm sure you could attest, but at least the way I feel about our exchanges, A, they're good, but B, there's a lot of commonality between us. We have two separate lives, we have two separate experiences, but it's that bond. And you have some of the physical limitations because of past injuries and everything, but you said it with this curiosity, and that is me. In fact, just this morning, I was talking to a friend of mine, and no, I'm not going to name drop. I'm not going to name drop. Yes, I am. Yes, I
No,
am.
you should because it's important.
I'm petty. I'm petty like that. I was talking to Victoria Gracie this morning, and when I was talking about concepts, being conceptual about the art and everything, I
wife of
shoot.
Hiron Gracie for the listening
Yes.
new audience.
Yes. So she's in that Gracie family, right? She married into it. So it's not like she grew up doing that. And then for me, it's like I'm no world beater, never have been, but the purpose and the point, I think our role, and I'm talking to you too as well, Charles, is that curiosity. It's like I don't need to be an expert. We don't need to be experts. We don't need to be this pillar of knowledge of all knowing. Quite the contrary. Being that I do run Jiu-Jitsu Magazine, I'm embedded in the culture, but make no mistake. Yeah, I know I'm pretty nice with things that I may know here and there, but make no mistake, I'm a curious, inquisitive individual that I expect the community. I'm always reaching for the community to give me answers, not me giving the answers. I only pass the information that the community's telling me about, and I think that's a key point that you and I share, Charles, is that it doesn't matter if we're practicing on, hell, I haven't even been on the mats in the last year because of the pandemic, but man, once I've, especially me, I found this Clubhouse app. It's like I've been able to reconnect and talk to people en masse about this and get that live interaction. It's almost like being on the mats. It's beautiful. It's great. And it serves that curiosity that I'm kind of linking us together with.
No, that's even kind of you because I'm just a curious white belt, and towards the end of the program, and we'll close, I'm gonna have to live to tape ask your advice what to do with my neck and I'll elaborate for the audience a little bit later. But the thing is, you had mentioned about no-gi jiu-jitsu. Humbly,
Are you about to
jiu-jitsu.
start stuff? You're about to start stuff, aren't you?
Well, yes, but I think it's well thought. Humbly, I say this to the jiu-jitsu community and the self-defense centric aspect of it. I think no gi it's time to be an automated curriculum, even if you're a gi school. I just feel it's like learning about culture. I mean, it's like learning about fighting. If you're an Angelino, you've had a burrito, so you got to respect Mexican culture. Because that's part
Yes.
of, dude, any ethnic background you are, you know what represents you as being an Angelino is what the Mexicans brought over. It's just like consuming this burrito. You're driving with one hand, you got a burrito on one hand. It's late night, you're a little faded, you're having late night Thai food or burrito. So to me, it should be inclusive and
Yeah.
curriculum.
Even to that, I would even argue when you say, that the Mexicans brought it over, I would always say it was always here. It was
Sure,
always here.
sure, you're right.
Especially in the proximity of where we are. And oh my God.
Treaty of
And
Treaty of Guadalupe, the Battle of Rio Grande. Yes, you're right. You're right.
yeah, I mean, but that's see, again, that's the inquisitive part. That's the curious part. Cause I mean, I'm sure you have and we've spoke about this personally on the side, that I would bet money that you have a deeper, more broad understanding of Filipino culture than I do, even though
Absolutely.
I am part Filipino, and that's my mom's side. And man, I'm definitely the white person of my Filipino cousins and family and stuff like that. But it's that nuance that really just charges any kind of discussion. And in this one being jujitsu, and we're talking about no gis being the culture, absolute, or being part of the curriculum, the culture, absolutely are valued, because that is essentially his push. His push is to do just that. And if anyone's familiar with the 10th planet system, what I really love, and I don't really do 10th, I am one of the most unflexible people I know, but I love studying their system because he is innovative. He is groundbreaking. He has all these crazy names, but he's labeling things that before didn't have names. He's identifying these things. And once we can talk about some of these things that he's identified, then maybe we can have more intellectual conversations when talking about, because now we have names for things, as opposed to, that thing when you just throw a leg over and it's in front of your neck. Before it had no name, but it does now. Thank you, Eddie Bravo. But
shouts to
in
Eddie.
this whole, I thought, yeah. And this whole idea about, it's a common question of, well, what's better, gi or no gi? And, that to me, that's I think each one alone is just incomplete. It's incomplete. Is they both have a place in the discussion. That's like asking which one's your favorite child. If you have multiple kids, it's like, no, it's the family, and gi is part of the family. No gi is part of the family. They both have, and I will argue and possibly die on each hill of that argument, of why each one is just so important. And there's a famous saying that goes on in the industry, when Dean Lister coined that phrase about lower body attacks, leg locks, ankle locks, foot locks, is why would you ignore 50% of the body? And Pete the Greek, he specializes in wrist locks. He says, why would you ignore 0.5% of the body or 0.05% of the body? So there's truth to that. And that's the way, again, DNA, curiosity, the wiring. That's why, to me, it doesn't just stop with jujitsu. It doesn't just stop with boxing. As a child, that was my infatuation when learning about the military. It's like, I want to learn how weaponry works. I want to learn how rifles work. I want to learn how submarines work, the role that they play, battleships, aircraft. I was into all of that. And some of the things are applicable. A lot of it is applicable. It's all the same, whether it's jujitsu or, combat. It's whoever manages the distance manages the damage. And that could be from striking range to trapping range, to your, what you were talking about earlier, to grappling range, to ground range, to, how about this, artillery. My rifle shoots further than your rifle. Oh yeah, well, my artillery shoots further. Oh yeah, well, my gunships can fire further. Oh yeah, well, my airplanes can, onto satellite technology. So he who manages the distance manages the damage. And I'm infatuated. That's the consistent from when I was a little child to now as, the guy who runs Jiu-Jitsu magazine. It's that infatuation.
I forgot to ask you, did you feel like you were a little bit duped after watching UFC 93 and go, wait. All of this could be nullified? Because you're talking about distance right now. And honestly, It's the biggest martial revelation ever.
Yes,
Hoist
absolutely.
Gracie. It's the biggest martial revelation. So were you? Or what changed?
That's, you know what, that's an interesting question, because now that you mention it, I don't know if I felt duped, but I felt awakened. You know what
Mm,
I mean? I didn't, because at the same time, I think when you feel duped, like, okay, for instance, shout out, I'm about to throw my best friend under the bus, Ron Lopez. All right. So he is my best friend that lives out in Atlanta. And we bonded over martial arts. Now, Ron Lopez is Lisa Left Eye Lopez's younger brother from the group TLC, throwing a little hip hop pop in there or whatever. But I was friends with Lisa, but through Lisa, I met her younger brother. He was a martial artist. He loved it. And he set up shop in karate. Now, when you say, do you feel duped? He feels duped. He gets angry about how he used to feel, because he's all, no, no, no. When I was all in on karate, and he, man, let me tell you, he is nice with it too. He's good at his karate. He's like, no, I really felt like I could handle myself. But then once he got introduced to jujitsu, a little bit before he met me, he's like, no, his world came crumbling down. He took it pretty hard. He took it pretty hard. Me, not so much. I try to uplift him a little bit. Like, no, man, there's a place for all that. There is
sure.
a place. And that's how I feel about my boxing. In fact, I'm still proud of the boxing that I knew. I had to unlearn a lot of that though. And I unlearned that once I gave up a embarrassingly easy ankle pick. Like, I was real tall in my boxing stance, and this guy literally just reached over and just pulled my ankle out from under me. And I was like, come on, man. It was embarrassingly easy, but it was a lesson. I did have to unlearn a lot of boxing things, but no, I don't feel duped, but I do feel awake.
Because that's a completely different sensation. It's now adding to the art. Where
Yeah.
I felt like in the beginning, it's almost like I have to empty my cup and fill it with something else now. But that's to your positive personality, because it I just felt like, dude, if you try and take me down, I'm gonna spit on your face. I'm gonna throw my keys. I'm gonna jit tech you on the knee and then tie knee you. But no, that would have not flown. And I'm 45, so my speech is so caveman, archaic, clandestine, right? It's not progressive at all. But yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because there's still a lot of people now that what's happening in the martial arts community is there are kids that are now their nativity is to jujitsu, but now they don't consider striking. So there's a bit of an orbit traversing to martial culture, martial arts, because now I feel like boxing, and because people are native now to grabbing and grappling and submissions, they're forgetting a little bit of, like, the composition of striking. So
Yeah, oh man, such a good point. Such a good point. Because, yeah, like, okay, so the vernacular you're using, the old school archaic language, right? You could say that's, would you say that, agree that that's rooted in the traditional martial arts, right? Traditional martial arts
and and
language, right?
and traditional thinking
Oh, really? S-
societally.
Oh, okay.
It's like parents, become a doctor, become a lawyer, go to school. Like, now you could watch so many entrepreneurial videos where it's like, school, you're wasting your time at school. So I think just everything's moving so much faster. So it is old
Mm.
school, yes, but it's also societal change. The society changing.
Oh man, that's a great point. That's a great point. Which, I mean, still plays from what I'm about to kind of an observation, because to me, I love jujitsu. I love jujitsu, but make no mistake, I love mixed martial arts too, because that's where you get to see the role of jujitsu and where it stands, and
Sure.
that's where the evolution has to happen, I believe, because at the end of the day, jujitsu is a martial art, but if other arts are kind of plotting against it, and that's the beauty of mixed martial arts, it really is. Because Charles, you've been watching long enough. You see like ebbs and flows of trends, and it's funny. I was just talking about this very point this morning about the new evolution and MMA, modern traffic. It's
Sorry,
like
Jim.
the
Please
lower
repeat your.
calf kick. Everyone's that playbook now, and everyone's starting to.
Sorry, Jim.
Oh,
We got cut
okay.
off
Can you hear me okay?
by the internet signal.
Okay.
Like for like 10 seconds. Go
Are we
ahead.
okay right now?
Yeah, we're good now. Sorry.
Okay, so what I was saying to your traditional vernacular and traditional ways, and how now the current modern day evolution of from tradition to progressive is MMA. And I was saying that you've been following MMA long enough, and you're kind of intimate and on the inside with a lot of these organizations, and you see the trends that develop within MMA. Like at one time, jujitsu was a hot thing, and then it became wrestling. The anti-jujitsu was wrestling, but then all of a sudden the striking arts started coming back. When you have someone like BJ Penn or Frankie Edgar, man, they boxed at a high level. They boxed, right? And then it got back into the Muay Thai again, and even karate, like even McGregor's style is,
Lyoto
you can
Machida.
tell it's based. Lyoto Machida, let's not forget about him, of course. But you see the trends happen because, yeah, remember Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, all those people. That was the hot thing. Everyone wanted to be Joe Karate in MMA. And right now, I was talking this morning that I think the latest evolution is the lower calf kick, the low calf kick. And actually, I would even argue that jujitsu is even making a comeback. Like there are some legitimate submission artists. Hello, Charles Oliveira. These
Sure.
guys. Hello, T City. These guys. You don't want to go to the ground with them. Habib. You. That's the evolution along with this lower calf kick game. It's like, we have a new thing now. Now it's going to get a little bit more mainstream now that Connor just lost to Poirier in that fashion. It's the copy, like they say in football or basketball, with Phil Jackson, the triangle, and back in the '90s with the was it the fun and shoot of the LA Rams or St. Louis Rams at the time. It's copycat league, man.
Oh my God. Seriously. This is more inside podcaster baseball. I was going to bring up like, hey, I saw a picture of you with Gary Payton and I could turn this into a Lakers hoops conversation. I mean, I'm going to refrain. I'm going to be
Yeah,
contextually in
keep
the
us on
timeline.
track because we'll talk forever.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do need people to understand your lasagna layering because there's so many layers to you. I mean, I could just talk about or ask you about your military background. I could ask you about like having an interracial wife, interracial marriage, and how your daughter is getting affected and how you're raising her during this step in time. And I'll say it on my end. The former president did not bring equality, unity, and inclusivity because of his speech. So there's so much I could talk to you about. So I'm gonna be a disciplined
Wow. Yeah,
little.
we'll save that for a different. We'll save that for a different one.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
man, those are those are all things, Charles. I love talking about. I don't mind about uncomfortable things, and I love engaging with people who are willing, who are really not listening only so they could just debunk every single thing you say, but just bring up questions and bring out tough topics. And I think that is what's missing. Not only in the martial arts community, but just in the world, man. And it's funny, and I'll kind of play off a little bit of that. Is that yes, my opinion is that President Trump, he was pretty divisive. He was pretty divisive, and I think that's fair to say. That's fair. His language, because again, to mention what we've kind of touched on in this conversation is nuance. There's a lot of nuance, and the more you learn historical context, the more you could spot this thing and you could see it for what it is. And it's very unfortunate, but which brings me to, and I'll put myself out there, what I really was hoping for is Andrew Yang, right? He was a potential candidate, and whether you agree with the policy or not, I get all that. But one thing I did like is that amongst all of these policies he proposed, one of them was actually jujitsu, and he happened to be let me see, who is it? I think he's the god. I don't know. There's some he has a connection of being the great godchild of Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was one of the American presidents in 1906, I believe it was. He coined that if everyone knew jujitsu, or if all Americans learned jujitsu, this world would be a better place, something like that. But he was a fan of the grappling arts. Look into Theodore Roosevelt's history. He actually had a mat room in the White House. So you fast forward all the way over to Andrew Yang, what he was proposing. Never mind anything else, whether you do agree, it's not a political discussion, but it's more of a conceptual thought. And he proposed that police officers attain a purple belt level of efficiency. Now, when you think of it on the surface, it's not much, but when you think about it in depth, you start thinking of, yes, if a lot of these officers, no matter what these officers' political beliefs were, but if they were very efficient in the art of jujitsu, then a lot of these unfortunate incidences would be better, not only for the police officers, because they don't have to use excessive force. They will have this purple belt level. I mean, hell, I'll even put my money on a blue belt,
Sure.
with some athletic ability, right? Never mind a purple belt. But if every unfortunate incident that happened, if these officers had a purple belt level of proficiency, I think the officers would be in a better place, because they do suffer too. They do. And it's not an argument. Yeah. And this is not a defense in them or for them and inappropriate conduct, but it would also be better for not only them, but also for the alleged perpetrator. They don't have to die. They don't have to get beat to death. They are effectively restrained and allow the system to do what it's built to do. Just off of that notion alone of what he was offering and what his ask was. Now, if you also go into jujitsu culture, I think anyone who's ever spent any good amount of time in an academy, they will understand that jujitsu academies and being on the mat, it's a unifier. It brings many different cultures. And we talked about it earlier, Charles, tax brackets, right? You'll have people in that high tax bracket, people in the low tax bracket. You'll have the educated, you'll have the not so educated. You have the police officer, you have the ex-con, you have the doctor, you have the lawyer. Jiu-jitsu academies and that art, anyone who's ever practiced jiu-jitsu for a long amount of time, they will all agree with me. I would say a good portion would agree with me that that's the reality. Jiu-jitsu and the practice of unifies people. Now, I wanted to write an article about when Andrew Yang was running, but imagine for one moment a mat room back in the White House. Leadership starts from the top and it trickles down. Whatever the vibe is, whatever tone and vibe is set by the leader, and this goes from the presidency to the civilians, to an academy owner, to his students, to your platoon sergeants, to his squad leaders. Leadership rolls downhill. And if we could start with a leader, just for 1 minute, the concept of a leader who does jujitsu and understands that power of unity on that level, I think that would be a great place to start.
So would it be utopia for you if a cop does an Imanari roll, his baton gets caught, and then he puts him in the Jew claw, and then he almost platters him and handcuffs him and goes, "Yeah, world star."
Oh my God. Hey, wait, Charles, and let me protect you from any further backlash you may receive. When you said Jew claw, Jiu-jitsu is spelled J-I-U.
Oh, thank you.
J-I-T-S-U. When he said Jew claw, that was not any dig at the faith-based word or pronunciation. No, it's J-I-U. It's a play off of Jiu-jitsu,
right.
J-I-U claw. So don't give Charles crap for that.
Thanks, man. But imagine that, dude. Someone in Minari's and his gun and his baton gets in the way with the walking.
Oh my God.
I mean, that would be so amazing, because even Henner, I think Huron too, was like, talking to the officials in New York, and it's like, what do you mean no chest to chest?
Oh,
that's one of the most essential things in controlling someone.
Horrible.
So I think coming from sorry, go ahead.
No, I do. And I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry, Charles.
No, do you think?
I want to make this very clear, and hopefully this part, it gets cut up and it gets distributed, because this part is very, very key. It's very crucial. When they start banning for police officers the use of what we commonly call a rear naked choke, a rear naked strangle. Yes, bad things could happen. Death could happen for sure. But here's the thing. That kind of stuff doesn't happen to properly trained practitioners. We practice that stuff day in, day out, day in, day out. MMA fighters that we watch for our entertainment, that is like the glory, to get someone's back and slap that rear naked choke on. It's like, no one has died in an MMA match from an improperly applied rear naked chokehold. So to allow for our entertainment rear naked chokes, which there has not been a substantial argument that anyone can make about banning rear naked chokes in sport. Why would we do it when there really is life and death on the line with these officers? Why would you take that tool away? It's a very horrible precedent that was set, very dangerous. When you take away that chest on chest, when you take away that rear naked strangle option, when you take those, because then what are the other options? And the fact that it's illegal perfectly legal in our sports, and it's fine. Hundreds of people compete over a weekend, any given weekend, with that available to them. Not a single death, pro and amateur. Why would you take it away from a police officer? Such an effective tool. So I really hope that bottom line gets disseminated to the leaders who make these rules.
Right. And it's a clear-cut example of understanding and applying the understanding. Because if someone like Andrew Yang, if he were to be asked, okay, tell me why a purple belt, because it's this level, this level, this level. It's a factor of learning how to utilize your body to control and hold something. He could explain it to the people who don't understand, who are in politics. But when you have someone, let's say, look, a lot of us are born on third base, meaning we're not as impoverished as immigrants, African Americans who are here, right? A lot of us are born on third base, but it's how you utilize that. And that's what Andrew Yang is trying to utilize, or any official who agrees with jiu-jitsu implementation. It's, don't act like you hit a triple because, you were born in third base. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, Charles, like, here's the question for you is like, where do you think that advice came from? Where does that come from? Because I wouldn't know, not a single, and I don't know even know if you would know a single. So I don't know why I'm asking you, but just in case, who's giving that kind of information to say, yeah, ban chokeholds, good idea? It's like, whoever gave that advice, do they even watch MMA?
A lot of it is wrong line of context. By the way, this is inside baseball podcasting. When the person when the viewee is interviewing me, that's all right, because this is like the brotherhood here. I personally feel it's a misunderstanding in its group society. So in other words, it's like when you want to take advice, sometimes you don't want to take advice. You just want to heed according to what people agree to you. Right. It's kind of like when you're in a Facebook group, if it's a political group or understanding of Japanese culture, you will latch on to what you only like and what you only know. But because some of these politicians, they don't know, therefore they are afraid. So if you have a lot of affluent politicians who act like they hit a triple, they're going to form their own commune, and then they just agree amongst each other. Because people are at that level, they don't have the time to understand anymore.
But they still want to hold on to that position of authority.
Yes.
I know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You listen.
Because A, B, C, and D of my commune agree with me.
Yeah.
So that's why the representation is important. So that way, JKLMNOP, it's like, wait. We got two sets of 5 people and they're disagreeing. We have to understand. Like, honestly, I know people in the Philippines and they struggle, dude. I know 2 families that live in one house. because they're just impoverished people. And how can you say, well,
no
they're
fault
lazy?
of their own. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just an issue of not
There's no opportunity.
Right. And you're not willing to understand. I won't expect someone to be empathetic, but be sympathetic. Empathetic is when you feel it. You felt it before. But sympathetic is the willingness to look at that and go, that's not good. Let me learn something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the pocketed communities that these people put allegiance to each other.
And these echo chambers don't really help, right? The way the algorithms work for social media and stuff to really keep you in that keep you siloed from dissenting voices.
Well, that's a brilliant point,
and
because
keeping you step outside.
Right. That's a brilliant point, because with algorithms, if you do research on something negative, everything negative is going to pop up, and that seeps into your brain. So you're going to have to combat that algorithm, look for something positive on the same topic to combat the algorithm.
Like don't get mad because you spent 10 years studying karate and you found out that, jujitsu works a whole lot more effectively, right?
Yeah.
Don't get mad at those things. I try to make a connection with that.
Bad job. And just like what I'm saying, it's like if the karate folks are like, no, don't train that jujitsu stuff.
Yes. Oh, in fact, going back to Ron, when I was asking him about jujitsu in Atlanta, that was one of the things he said. He was looking in martial arts academies, and this is late 90s, early 2000s or so. And he would ask them, do you guys do any ground fighting? Because he wanted to learn. And then the guy just said, oh no, we take care of it before it gets to the ground. And he was serious. And to your point, he represents that thought path, that chain of thought. No, we take care of it before we get to the ground. And he just knew it. He knew it.
Yeah, I mean, I've even experienced people, I'm not going to mention the ethnicity, but they're like, well, this is Japanese jiu-jitsu. Why are we going to train in Brazilian jiu-jitsu? They weren't Japanese, by the way. Yeah, they weren't. Right. They were they came from a dominant culture. But they're like, right. No, I've learned about the Japanese. I spent my time in Japan. I can probably make a better sushi roll than any of these motherfuckers on Ventura Boulevard. But
man, yeah, that false sense of authority, like and what folks deem as an authority or as an authoritative voice, like just because. I guess it's kind of like you're born on third base analogy. No. Just because you're Japanese, don't think that you are an expert of all things Japanese now because you're Japanese. I mean that's fair, but it's only a slice of the complexities of talking about any kind of subject. Just that someone says, "Oh, I've known that person for 15 years." Yeah, but how well do you know them? How much time did you spend with them? Just because I may have forged a tight relationship with someone in 6 months, the fact that someone knew them for 15 years, that means little if you've never invested in that relationship. If you never, I guess that whatever the opposite of appropriation is, but just putting back into that culture, that means nothing. Like there's someone who they may have been born and raised in Brazil and took, got their blue belt from Brazil because they lived in Brazil. Doesn't equate to the work that I've never been to Brazil, but doesn't equate. Just because you spent time in Brazil doesn't mean you're going to be better at Brazilian jiu-jitsu than I am because I put in the work. And I think that goes across the board for a lot of things. And people think that, like someone asked me, and he was serious. He's like, you don't speak Portuguese. What kind of instructor are you? Yeah, it was a little tongue in cheek, but no. He kind of meant that. It's like, whoa, really?
Right. It wasn't sarcasm. It was literalism presented in sarcasm.
Yeah. He kind of meant that. And he did not continue with jujitsu lessons. He did not continue. So, and he was a black belt in a different art. So, he felt threatened.
Some people just don't get it, Jim.
Don't get it.
I'm going to do the most terrible thing to do in radio is a long-winded question. Okay. I'm going to tie it contextually though. So right. Have you ever heard of, this is the short question. Have you ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Dunning, please recap it. I have. Is it the how many names or how many relationships you can forge
No,
with
it's where someone has so much knowledge about a topic, but they feel like they're more extensive in their knowledge,
oh,
therefore they act arrogant.
oh, okay.
Okay, so Dunning Kruger, this guy David Dunning was talking about where pilots, the first 20 flights, they're really students, right? They're blue belts. They bow to the master, follow proper protocol and dialing. But what he says, there's this kill zone. Like when someone's a purple belt, they think they're a black belt. They think they're mega experted.
No, no, you know what? You jumped the gun. Not to be anal
Sure.
with details. What you're talking about is the white belt mentality, and then the blue belt is where this effect comes in, which is why we have blue belt blues. Everyone quits at blue belt because
They think they know more than what they really know.
right.
And then, well, some blue belts are just, they were content. That's another topic.
Yeah.
But with the Dunning-Kruger effect, you know, the specificity that David Dunning was talking about was the kill time.
Okay.
Where a pilot could crash because they think they know it. And this has happened before. And this is so critical with the killing time. And you have the military background. So have you witnessed this with your student group where
Oh my
it's like,
God.
and please elaborate on that experience. It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like, oh, okay, your berth's kind of between blue and purple now, and you think you're Marcelo Garcia now, right? Oh, okay, all right, Jacare, all right, Homero, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on.
Hell yeah. By the way, I love all of your references. You hit some of my favorites right there. Love that. Good man, Charles. But yeah, so to that, and your analogy was spot on too. It was awesome because I have stories of that going back into the military. And I will never forget a couple of my drill instructors, Sergeant Conejo and Sergeant Mascarenas, and then my staff sergeant, lead drill instructor, staff sergeant Justice. But I'll never forget, once we went through, at the time, the Marine Corps used what was called line training, linear neurological execution, linear neurological override execution, something like that, linear line. So that was the martial arts system. And we worked at it, and man, I was focused. I love that stuff. That was some of my favorite stuff. But once we started getting nice with it towards the end of that portion of the training, the thing he said is, now don't go out thinking that you're going to beat up every drunk guy in Oceanside, because I was at Camp Pendleton at that time. He's like, what you have just learned and what we have taught you is just enough to get your ass kicked. So it's like, that's so true, man, because you see, I mean, understand the process of how they make you feel. Like once you're done with basic training, you're like, I could take on the world, you know. It's that Dunning-Kruger effect for real. And then, you know, the poor new Marines, they drop into the fleet and then they get known as that guy, like, all right, slow down, boot. They'll call him boot, even though they just finished boot camp, you know. But yeah, that goes on. I don't think any genre, any skill set has a monopoly on that kind of thing happening. But yeah, oh, absolutely, in jiu-jitsu. And sometimes to see it in real time, where some of your students, they will just kind of, and I'm pretty liberal, I'm pretty relaxed, as you know.
Absolutely, you are.
So when I teach, you know, I feel I give everyone a voice, but there are lines, and there are times where I've had to kind of just pull on that leash a little bit, because I would have newly minted blue belts start kind of expounding on my instruction. Not that I have an issue with people helping other students, and I'm not from this hierarchy of, no, you must be a black belt to teach, or you must be blah blah blah. No, I'm pretty liberal, but I would see it with my own eyes that some of my students, they would have this feeling like they're not drilling like they used to. as a white belt. And not only that, they think it's correction time. Like they take that notion of they get to correct everyone's flood technique. And yeah, it could be a nuisance, but it just really depends on how you run your academy. I mean, leadership rolls downhill. How do you run the academy? But yeah, it's very common to your question, Charles.
Yeah, and the tough thing about that is it's the YouTubery where
Mm,
oh, I know that move. Oh, I know,
yeah.
oh, I know. It's on my playlist. I know. I know.
So my playlist.
Professor Jim, I know. I know. I know. That's why like I'd rather be self-effacing and not forcibly humble, but just like yes sir, no sir, because I don't want to be that guy who's
Yeah,
teaching the higher guy on the pecking order about a technique that I still
yeah,
need retooling on.
yeah. There is a segment of just humanity that, and again, I think this scales well beyond jujitsu, is that lack of self-reflection, that lack of inner dialogue before acting out or blurting out something that's just ill thought. It's pretty common. And the good thing about jujitsu is that type of behavior, just organically, without malice, it gets weeded out. Because the more someone tries to, what you end up finding out is you, and I've done this in different areas of my life, but you come to realize that you end up spending so much more time and energy trying to deflect the responsibility of the tasks, that's actually harder than if you just let down that barrier and take it in, soak in the lesson, right? So I think everyone, or a lot of people, I'll just say, have that going on at some point in their life, and yeah, I'm not immune to that. That's happened with me in certain areas of my life, to where, oh no, I got this. And what I mistake that for is a can-do positive attitude. Like, yes, I could do it. I could do anything. I could do it. But then sometimes it's like, that's not even the discussion. That's not even the discussion whether you can do it or not. You just need to just chill a little bit and take it in. But it's having that dialogue to, when you find yourself doing that, just pause,
It's the
pause.
self-awareness part of it, right?
Yeah. Take it in. At least, and even if you're ill connected with your initial environment, at least give an attempt. Give an attempt. Like, pause, self-reflect. Okay, where do I stand in this environment? It's like the old gambling saying: when you go to a gambling table and you don't see the sucker at the table, you're the sucker.
Right.
And it just, so yeah.
All right. Advice time. So this is where I'm
Oh,
at right now with my neck injury. So
hey,
this
and
is
make sure you there are waivers on this. I'm
sure,
not a
sure, sure.
doctor.
So
Okay.
it's not more medical advice. So this is why I've been forever a white belt. If I train twice a week for a month, the neck throbs like almost violently. The most I've gone is 6 weeks where it's just like my neck is so stiff. Like when I change lanes, I have to literally turn with my hips connected to my torso. Um, so it's really halted my jujitsu because after that 4 to 6 weeks of training twice a week only, I have to rest 2 to 3 months before the throbbing stops. And that's when I'm doing electric stimulation, neck traction, everything to stop the throbbing. So this is why I've always just been a white belt. There wasn't any room to develop. And I'm not going to hold you to it on video and audio. It, I'm thinking I'm just going to go ahead and enjoy when I do train. I'm not going to think about earning a blue belt, a first stripe white belt. And maybe, I don't know if here's the question. Do I just train with people who are higher belts, like purple belts and up, who aren't insecure and not join an academy anymore? Or maybe the better question is, what would you do in that situation?
Well, I will kind of tailor this answer to you specifically first, and then I'll just kind of give a more general, broad situation. So with you, Charles, joining an academy, you have this unique position in the community. You're well known by a lot of people, and
No.
I don't know, you are, and you have this equity in what you do and what you in your content, the way you create. So in that regard, you don't necessarily technically need to join an academy, because I truly believe that you'd be welcome with open arms. I know Hegan, he'd welcome you in. Oh, my brother, come train. You know, he has that door open. His brothers, same thing. And me, same thing. You're not paying a single dime. So you're not paying a single dime out of your wallet. And the reason why is because you've paid an other type of value. And remember, I mentioned that the opposite of appropriation,
Sure.
giving back,
Appreciation.
your appreciation and your content is that. That's every time you make something, every time you talk to someone like me connected to the community, that's like a deposit in the bank. It's an investment. So for you, this is where I speak to you. Yeah, you don't need to join an academy. For you, you get carte blanche to who do I want to work out with today, and just know that that door is going to be open as long as there are time slots available. Charles has a place to train. So with that, you get to tailor your training to who you want to train with and how they run their academy. And there's no need to, unless you wanted to chase a belt, but you're so far beyond that. I mean, it's pretty obvious because you've been attached to it for so long and still that white belt. I think it's safe to say you're not in this for the belt. You're not in this
No
for the
way. No
belt.
way. I just love it.
So I'm speaking to you, and that's how I would address that is, yeah, I think you're on the right track to find your group of trust, that inner circle, so to speak, of people you trust, and roll accordingly. And now that I've actually gotten older, and even since the times you worked with my group of guys and stuff, man, I would even say there's a let's see, I'd say there's a argument, just a real argument. You may even love this stuff more than me because of the consequences that you're faced with as opposed to what I'm faced with. Like if I think, as much as I love jujitsu and I hope to do this till the wheels fall off, that I don't know if I could do what you do. I don't, like, if I was that limited, it would just be different. I think I'd be so hurt at my ability to not be able to participate that I would either put in a position to force myself to get to where you are right now, or I'd just have to detach because of the sadness I would bring if I couldn't do that anymore.
I couldn't detach
And
myself, Jim.
so yeah, see, and that's what I'm saying. A reasonable argument could be made. Fortunately, knock on anything sacred, that I'm not in that position of, like, now when we're talking about neck injuries, oh, I'm beat up. This hand right here, my left hand, it has not felt right for the last 13 years. It's a constant, like my thumb and forefingers are asleep, that constant tingling, that numbing. And it's because of necks. I've had my back ribs dislocated, that created pressure up against some nerves and my neck. And I have like fragments in there too that create this havoc that gives me this 24/7 tingle in my thumb and forefingers right here. So there's that, and I still roll. And again, if I don't know, and I don't ever want to be put in the position to where I'm dealing with what you have to deal with. And that's my argument for you and how much you love this. And that's like the love of the highest level, when you're willing to, not even for a competition, just for the love of the existence, your connection to it, that DNA that we've talked about, right? That, yeah, there's a practical, reasonable argument that you may even love this more than me. But at the end of the day, it's just love, period. And for the, I guess, the common folk who aren't dealing with these issues, yeah, I've always said that just find your niche. This is one of those things that there's no real playbook other than what's in your gut. How, there's a saying that I love. It's people won't remember the words you speak, the words you say, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And with that, that's where everyone, no matter of their tax bracket, no matter of their situation, is they have some sort of direction towards or away things based on the way their choices pretty much always theirs. They could always make choices off of how things make them feel, generally speaking, because unfortunately there are some people that they don't have choices, but on some level there's always going to be a choice. There's always going to be a choice. And when it comes to, starting a jujitsu journey or martial arts journey, is, man, shop around, see how these places make you feel. Do you feel like you're learning? Do you feel like the instructor's on the up and up and not some shady charlatan, right? Like mandating, that's always a red flag. In fact, for everyone, tap into the Instagram McDojo life. That guy Rob over there, he's running a good thing. He outs these charlatans. And yeah, people will prey, and that's the unfortunate reality. People will prey on other people's kindness, on other people's ignorance about the arts. So at the end of the day, it always comes down to trust your gut. It's one of those whimsical things that, everyone has different gut instincts. Trust your gut. How are leadership, again, how are the other students treating you? How do the other students make you feel? Do they make you feel like the training environment is safe? Make no mistake about it. Even though the martial arts can crank out killers and savages, the training area must make you feel safe, that you can learn how to be that killer, ironically, right? That savage, that beast. So, but all in all, it has to make you feel safe. It has to make you feel valued, and has to make you feel like you are a part of whatever it is you're attaching yourself to. That's just kind of my general advice to the general public. And yours is very specific. You have identified the people you like because you have that equity in the culture, in the community.
Well, that's the knowledge and astuteness of Sir Jim over here, Professor Jim Lawson. Um, I could talk to you for like 4 hours. And
man, we haven't even hit hip hop. I wanted to hit you,
dude.
Hey man, what's some of the new stuff? What's on your playlist? What put me on game?
I'll send you like a zip file of the newest stuff out there. These kids, these producers are animals, dude. Like the way they master and mix, and the way they utilize hi-hats, and just to how to polyrhythmically get you going. It's and I come from the golden era. Like if I were to tell people, I'm like Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, the Far Side. So that's my era. So I'm very judgmental.
So check this out real quick, Charles. I mean, my camera sucks, but I got goosebumps going on because you're hitting the notes, man. Just literally about 5 hours ago, I'll say, right before that thing that you hopped in on with Hanach. I was talking to my wife about music, and I was telling her, baby, listen to how that hi-hat hits. Listen to that. That's some dopeness. And I was just getting all amped up about it. And then this is what I'm talking about. So everyone who's listening, watching, this is what I'm talking about. Every time we talk, Charles, it's like this. There's that connection of stuff that we both vibe on, man.
Right. And the white space that I think I'm starting to fulfill is for people who are Gen Xers, and I've found music of today that is underground and palatable to us. I'm going to send you some music and you're going to be like, I didn't know this stuff existed. It's so dope, so melodic. And these producers understand so much that, look, I don't have the lyrics because I don't feel your generation's pain because you guys had the MCs. So now let me express it soulfully through these Fender Rhodes and whatever keys that I got. And dude, I'm a hook up and level out. I'm not gonna be Kanye flatline. When I kick into the hook and the chorus, I'm gonna change the programming of the drum beats. I could talk about this forever and ever, but we haven't even touched that. I mean,
yeah,
Just the military alone, the military experience. I'm really curious about that because I almost joined.
We haven't talked. We haven't even scratched the surface of Showtime Lakers versus Shaq and Kobe Lakers, and what that means to the LeBron era Lakers. Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. So at least for this time, people have seen your layers for jujitsu. It's not just train, 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 fight, fight, fight. You know what I'm saying? So this is really dope. Where can people get a hold of you if in case you have any media inquiries? Just I'm sure you're open to consulting and training people. So especially once everyone's vaccine.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Well, thank you for the opportunity to kind of disseminate that on your platform, Charles. I appreciate that, man. I do, and I'm not blowing smoke up your butt, man. It's like I really do appreciate how you represent our community and martial arts and beyond, and how you communicate it. It's I appreciate you, man, and
Oh,
so
that's kind
thank
of
you for that. And then so for me, one of the easiest ways is I'm on Instagram, Jujitsu Magazine. So at Jujitsu Mag, that's JIUJITSU Mag as a magazine. And then jujitsumag.com. I mean, those are the big ways. There's a contact button over there. Then also, man, here we are in 2021. I just got introduced fairly recently to this Clubhouse platform. I don't know if that's in conflict to anything you're doing.
which you put me on.
Oh man, this thing, it's going to shift. I think it's going to shift the landscape of social media. And in essence, it's kind of like music. It's like it's built off the backs of greatness, right? It's like we had those previous era MCs and hip hop and all that stuff, but then I don't like dumping on the new school. It's like, man, it's a pet peeve of mine when people say, "Oh, they don't make music like that anymore." Man, stop it with that. The younger generation, people who do that, they dismiss the opportunity for the younger generation to build off of what our individual eras created. That's what it's supposed to do. And if people who say that oh, there's no good R&B now, there's no good hip hop, you're not listening. Straight up.
And you're not digging.
That's right. And I'll say that to your face and diss you on that. But Jujitsu Mag on Instagram, and then jujitsumag.com on the internet, and Clubhouse. Hit me up on Clubhouse. I am actually, my handle is Twisted One. And we do have in the Clubhouse platform now. It's Jiu-Jitsu Magazine's Club in Clubhouse. So look for me there. And Charles, it's been a pleasure, man. Once again, thank you very much. I can't express enough how much I appreciate you doing what you do and giving me the opportunity to chat with you.
Stop, dude. This podcast was about giving you your flowers. So stop with that, man.
Yeah.
You're the man, dude.
See, I flipped that stuff and put it back on you.
Oh, man. But thank you so much. And I'll let you know when we broadcast this.
Right on. Sounds good, man. And I appreciate you, Charles. And yeah, guys, I'm doing a lot of cool things. So keep in touch with me through the magazine. Thank you, Charles.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, man. Chat soon.
Later.